Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. We had plummeting temperatures this week, over -30 at one point, and consequently I was pretty cooped up indoors and unable to enjoy nature in the same way I usually do. I compromised on this week's video in order to bring you a simple little Q&A. I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully soon I will be out in nature once again and be able to share its treasures with you. Hello, I hope the holiday season is treating you well. I was planning on uploading this video a while ago, but I got caught up in holiday celebrations. It got extremely cold and we were having flickering power and power outages, and I decided to sit down and make something a little cozier and simpler just for this week. And if more chatty videos are not your cup of tea, no worries at all. I will see you next week with my more usual content. I have been working on some videos that really mean a lot to me, so I'm very excited to share them with you. I have been meaning to do a Q&A video for such a long time. There are a lot of new fairy friends and magical creatures in this little corner of the world, and so I wanted to say hello and introduce myself, but also answer some questions that have been following this channel around for couple years now. I will recap a couple basic things though. One is that my name is Paola and I live in a rural valley in Washington State in the US. I live here with my husband Luke. He is a land surveyor in this local area, as well as my pets Iger and Mavi. I did lose a dear sweet bunny this year. His name was Mr. Darcy and he was very close to my heart. And it's been difficult not having him, so I do hope to have maybe a bunny again in the future, hopefully next year. So one of the first questions I had is, what do you do for work? And the answer to that is that I do a variety of things. I have been working on the weekends at my little local bookstore, but that is definitely the smallest part of what I do. I run an Etsy shop. That is definitely my main job and something I'm incredibly grateful for to be able to do. I make mostly kind of children's inspired art and fairy art, as well as just nature art in general. And of course, I make videos here on YouTube, and that is definitely a very important part of the work I do. I don't do sponsored content, so definitely my Etsy shop is kind of my main job and my main way that I'm able to make a living. I like to do a variety of jobs. Many people in this little valley actually do that. They diversify just to make things work. And so it's been always interesting to evolve. I am uncertain that I will be able to continue working at my little bookshop because I have time commitments in other places in my life currently. So I may not be working there for the new year, but I hope to work there again in the future because I really, really enjoy it. Another question was, what is your favorite meal? And I will answer that I don't necessarily have a favorite meal, but I have many, many favorite desserts. I love creme brulee, I love ice cream, I love sweet drinks. I am just a sweet tooth, such a sweet tooth. Favorite meals, I would say probably stir fries and sushi. I'm not able to get a lot of those foods here locally because we're very limited in our restaurants. I also love a good pasta dish. Another question was, what are your favorite children's books? I have so many, so I can't possibly choose. However, some very favorites that come to mind are Journey, Maybe, and the Brambly Hedge books are really adorable as well as, of course, the Peter Rabbit books. Another question was, what are your goals for the new year? I haven't quite decided what I want to do for the new year quite yet. However, I do really want to consistently keep a journal. I have always wanted to be able to do that, and I've never been very successful, and so I'm going to attempt to do that next year. And I think my goal every year pretty much is to continue discovering how to create a very healthy work-life balance. I am someone who tends to overdo it on work, and so I'm always trying to reel myself back a little bit. How did you find your property was another question. I was very, very lucky because the properties in this area, as well as so many places in the States, are so extremely expensive right now, and it is very difficult to be able to afford it. My husband and I lucked out as he was born and raised in this little valley, and his parents moved here way before it got this expensive, and so they had a property right next to them that had a barn on it that they renovated. They were able to sell it to us at a price that we could afford. And to this day, we're just so incredibly grateful that we had that opportunity and that we had family nearby. Another question was, I see that you worked in customer service. How have the holidays been? That is a very considerate question. A lot of customer service workers are working overtime and working so hard during the holiday season. It can be absolutely exhausting. So if you have the opportunity to give some festive well wishes to a customer service worker, I know that they will appreciate it. While it did get quite busy at my little bookstore, it was at no point overwhelming, which was really nice because I've worked at customer service jobs where there have been people lined up for, yards, and so that was very stressful. So thankfully this was a really lovely Christmas for me, despite it, of course, being a busy one. I was working Christmas Eve, so I did enjoy it. It's really lovely to spend time with my coworkers, but it is not always easy. Do you have any advice for people who also want to be teachers or childcare workers? I used to be a childcare worker. It is what I moved over to this valley to do. I was a teacher at a little independent school. I really loved it. It was just wonderful. But I will say, when you are working with well over a dozen children, sometimes up to 16 or more, not only physically are you moving up and down and doing things all day long, it can be difficult to take breaks because there are children in your care, and of course they come first and their safety comes first. Children also very much respond to how you are doing emotionally, and so it's really important to regulate your emotions and really help create a good atmosphere in the classroom, even if you're having a difficult day or something's happening in your personal life. So it is definitely, I have so much respect for childcare workers and teachers. It's just such a amazing job. The people that do it are incredible, and they definitely should be appreciated more. It is such incredible work and such vital work for our future. How did you learn about foraging and wild foods? The answer to that is kind of simple. I just kind of learned as I went. I definitely can look back at some very old videos and see things that I did incorrectly. I definitely was learning about wildcrafting and foraging as I was making these videos, and of course I knew I was going to make mistakes. However, a combination of things really helped me. There were a couple books that were written by a local author here that really helped me get a start, and just jumping in and, asking questions and being curious, finding people that also are passionate about it. And it takes a lot of learning, and it takes a long time before you can gain confidence in plant identification and how to use them, but you do get there eventually if you have the perseverance. Another question was that, are you going to quit YouTube soon? The answer is no. I do hope to continue making videos for quite a while longer. However, I think that as with many of these sorts of careers, there's going to be an endpoint. So I'm just doing my best to enjoy every week and communicate with all of you and really appreciate all the kind words and feedback, while we have this right now. I do not know. I can't tell. I don't know what the future is going to hold. This was an interesting question that I got, and it was, I love reading, but I have a hard time concentrating due to being distracted by technology. Do you have any advice? I like that question because I think it is something that a lot of us deal with. I know that there have been times in my life when I've had a hard time concentrating on reading, especially in school when I was just so busy. I think something that helped me was really just to create a very designated time, even if it was just 10 minutes to half an hour, maybe an hour. I would really recommend that, really try a variety of different books and see what you enjoy. There is comedy, there is drama, there's mystery, there's more simpler style books, more complicated, and really remember that I think it's important not to feel obligation to continue reading a book if it's just not speaking to you. I also love kind of creating a ritual where I light a candle. I might put on some music unless it bothers you, and I love putting on some ambient music. There's some really awesome things on YouTube. You can look up ambient rooms or ambient playlist for any type of atmosphere that matches the book you're reading. Reading is not a necessarily superior hobby to any other hobby. If I want to spend my evening painting instead of reading, that is just as valid. I think sometimes we see reading as a very kind of fruitful activity and a very important thing for us to do. But there's a lot of equally important sorts of hobbies that we could spend our time doing as well. So never connect to not reading as failing in some shape or form. This question also connects a bit to another one, which is how do you de-stress? And it is kind of usually a similar thing. I have more than ever recently put it upon myself to really prioritize taking a little bit of time to write a little bit in a journal, to listen to some calming music and meditate, or spend time kind of in a more spiritual space. That time spent in relaxation is very important for the success of the rest of your day. We can be productive, and arguably we might be able to be even more productive, or at least more happy to be productive, if we do prioritize a little bit of that time for the sake of our psychological and physical health as well. Do you have any favorite music? I have a kind of variety of music I like to listen to. However, I most often gravitate towards more ambient music and music that helps me concentrate on whatever I'm doing. I do a lot of work. I spend a lot of time painting, as well as working on my computer. I really love some of the albums of Priscilla Ann, as well as Katie Melua. They have very soft, very beautiful voices that always calm me down. I also like, of course, just soundtracks to amazing movies I love, of course. A lot of Studio Ghibli, a lot of Lord of the Rings, all types of things. I love this question. What is your favorite tea? I really love just any type of tea that is floral. Jasmine tea. I think I had some sort of lotus flower tea recently that was delicious. I love floral teas. Another question is, do you work out? I do not. I am, however, active. I don't know what would constitute necessarily working out or not working out, but I do love to go on nature walks. I go on them almost every day. In the winter, I'm a little more, just a lovely little hike or a walk. I'm not really a workout sort of person in general, so that's just kind of the way that I stay active and mobile, and I love doing work that keeps me moving. So I guess I just move throughout the day. How are you not scared of wild animals living out in the forest? I see this question fairly often. I assume it comes from people who have not lived out in rural areas. Through my experience and through the experience of most people who I talk to, wild animals really just want to be left alone and they want to be respected. And it is very rare, extremely rare for an animal to be intentionally aggressive towards you in any way. For example, we have bears are a pretty common sighting around here, and pretty much all they want to do is just eat the berries out of your tree and take a nap on the lawn. You definitely want to avoid them and give them their space, but they're not trying to be aggressive. The amount of incidences are so incredibly low. For example, compare the amount of people that are attacked by a wild animal to the amount of people who are attacked by other humans. It is a very telling comparison. Do you prefer the forest or your previous cottage on the prairie? I would say I love both for different reasons. The prairie was really wonderful. If you walked through for enough time, you could see little quail nests and all sorts of little signs of life. and I really love that. However, here in the forest, it is so beautiful and it's much cooler in the summer as well. I love both, but of course right now I'm really appreciating being surrounded by trees. It just feels like a big hug. What are 5 things we didn't know about you? I like this question, it's so random. I once won a local version of the Reading Rainbow competition. I think it was only aired in my state. I don't know. I assume it was aired in my state or maybe only in my local area, but I won one of the Reading Rainbow competitions when I was really little and I got to read my book on KCTS. So somewhere in some archives, there's a video of me reading my book that I wrote and illustrated, and it I think was called Tales, and it was about this island called the Island of Bingo, where cats and dogs live together. And it was kind of a legend. So it was a very strange story. If I ever find that book, I'm sure I have it somewhere here. I will read it to you. I used to also compete a little bit in rabbit shows when I was a kid. There was a kid version of rabbit showing where you would just bring your pet rabbit and you would train your little rabbit to sit very properly, and you would answer questions about your rabbit to a judge. And I used to do that. It was with a 4-H program, which is pretty popular here in the States, and it was really fun, but it led me to knowing a very strangely large amount of information about rabbits. My best friend growing up was over 60 years old, and she was my art teacher, and we would spend sometimes the weekends together quilting and yeah, just baking and painting and having fun, and I have so many lovely memories of her. I can speak English, Spanish, and Jeringonza. If you know what Jeringonza is, you probably are Hispanic. The 5th thing, I absolutely love sparkling water. If it could come out of the faucet, I would be so happy. How did you know you wanted to marry your husband? I definitely knew my husband was someone that I wanted in my life when I realized how safe I felt around him and how I felt so seen and so respected. I just really appreciated that, and I wanted to give that in return because I appreciated it so much. And I've known what it's like to be in relationships where I felt unsafe and not respected whatsoever. And I've just always loved that about him. He's also a very caring and very authentic person and very kind of generous with his emotions and his time. Another question was, what is your favorite dress, and do you have any advice for creating a wardrobe you love? I don't have a favorite dress. I'll put in clips of a couple of my favorites just because they're very well made and they fit me in a way that is comfortable. I love going to thrift shops. I also love doing kind of a sort of thrift shopping online. ThreadUp is a website that I have used in the past to find some discounted pieces. However, I would say that it is so important to be comfortable in your clothing, because if you are adjusting your clothing or just very fixated on something that's uncomfortable, it really kind of, puts your energy more inward and more self-conscious. And I think it's so important to just feel comfortable in your own skin and clothes that help you feel that way, and it'll be so much easier to be confident. I had one last question, and that was, how do I deal with cyberbullying or, negative people in general in my real life or online? And that is a tricky one to answer because I think it depends on, the person and your personality and what you're able to handle and what you're able to let go of. It has not always been easy for me to deal with bullies in person or online, but it does really help me to remember that saying, what is it? Hurt people, I think is how that saying goes, that it helps to remember that people's negative actions towards you often say a lot more about them than they do about you. And I think it's very important, especially when it comes to bullying online, to be able to unplug when necessary, to be able to step away from that sphere and, really ground yourself. Working online, you get your fair share of bullying. And I do find that it has really deeply helped me to just remember that, happy people don't want to go and say hateful words towards other people. Those people are really struggling and they're going through something, and it really isn't about you at the end of the day. And while it's easier said than done, that does mean that, You should do your best to try to not let those words, define you. They can hurt, and that's totally normal to have that feeling of hurt. I have come to accept that it is totally okay to feel pain in your heart when people are very unkind to you. But I've also, really tried to use it to inspire me to just, do something extra that day to be kind to someone else, in a way almost like balancing out those very unkind words with kind words. And remembering that no matter what you do, there will be people who will not like what you're doing. No matter who you are, there will be people who don't like who you are for one reason or another. Sometimes there will be people who don't even give you the opportunity to offer who you are or what you do, and they will just make a judgment right off the bat. Perhaps it's easier to put yourself out there and try new things and get out of your comfort zone if you know ahead of time that that sort of thing will always happen. And no matter what you do, there will, be people who don't understand. So you really need to try to put your best foot forward and focus on the positive, to not suppress those feelings of pain, to acknowledge them and understand that that's normal to feel hurt when people say unkind things, but to continue having courage, and trying to move forward despite it. Yes, take it from someone who has been making videos for quite a while. You're never going to be able to please everyone. There will always be people as well that misunderstand your intentions or your words, and you just can't prevent it. And that is, I think, a lifetime journey of being able to continue letting things go. But there's no shame in feeling that hurt and, feeling that way. That is totally okay. I've always had trouble with that statement of just grow a thick skin, because I think for some people, we're always going to be in touch with our emotions, and we're always going to have moments where we feel hurt. And I think it's more about how we respond to those feelings and whether or not we let them define our view of other people or define the view of ourselves that, is so much more important. There's so much positivity, but as well, like useful feedback and constructive criticism that you can take to heart a lot more. And I think those people deserve a lot more of your time and energy, of course, right? And you deserve a lot more of your time and energy. And the more time and focus you put on these negative words, the more that's taking away from you and your ability to enjoy your present. So I think that's all I can say, but it's a complicated one. I still struggle with it. I still don't feel like I have the answers there, but I am with you and I do feel for you and I understand. So yes, I think those were all the questions that I had written down. I hope that this felt like a cozy little tea party, and I hope to see you very soon in one of my more usual types of videos. I've been very excited to showcase the winter wonderland over here. It has been incredible. As you can see, I have some St. John's wort and eucalyptus that I've been drying out to try to make into some craft projects. So there are a lot of fun little ideas on the horizon. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful new year. Do let me know if you have any resolutions or goals. Sending you all the well wishes. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.